everyone, to today's live training, Why Building Your Business is Quietly Killing Your Growth. I am so glad to have you here. This is a topic that I love talking about and helping people implement in their business. So, specifically, I really want to talk about growing your audience without having to rely on showing up on social media every single day. And when I say grow your audience, what I really mean is growing your email list. So just quick logistics. If you stay to the end of this, I will be providing a free resource based around what we talk about today. In the meantime, you can go ahead and grab your notebook. This is not going to be one of those motivational talks, a pep up. This is really designed to be a practical workshop training. And by the end, my goal is for you to be able to see your business in a different light, see what your business can do for you in a very different way. To start off, I actually want to talk about a pattern that I've seen happen a lot, specifically in the solopreneur space, which is if you have ever been in the process of creating something new. You are doing something in order to grow your business, whether that's creating a new offer, a new podcast, you are working on a new client project, and it's something that's important. You know that it will help your business going forward. But what ends up happening over the course of you actually creating that new thing is that you look up and you realize that your audience growth was actually stunted or it stalled somewhere in that process. And to me, this looks like this. And I actually think it circles back after step 5. But you build something important, right? That project, your marketing starts slowing down, your audience stalls. And then what happens is that your launch actually starts to feel smaller. And so what happens is when you're ready to launch that thing that you've been working so hard on, you have to start rebuilding your audience again. You have to kind of start picking up the pieces. And this is a quiet cycle that I see people have. And my mission is literally to break this cycle, to stop the having to rebuild, to have something instead that we're able to continuously build off of. Because when we're able to get out of that cycle of always rebuilding, always starting over, that is when we actually start to move into the space of being able to compound what we're doing, where you're starting to get into the space of sustainable growth, of sustainable business growth, of a business that feels safe for you, for your nervous system, and all of those good things. So if you have found yourself in this pattern, this is not a personal failing on you. This is not, oh my gosh, it's me. I'm not able to hold enough. I'm not able to do this project and keep everything going. It really is a sign of a structure, a systematic issue. And the good part about that is that's actually something that's quite simple to fix. And so let me know if this is something that you have experienced before. Okay. Now, before we go any further, if you're wondering, hey, am I actually in the right place? I want you to just read these 4 that I have. You can let me know in the chat which one you identify with, but you're in the right place if you already have clients, you have an offer that people have purchased before, but your audience growth just feels inconsistent. You are building things in your business, but sometimes when you're in that building process, it just feels like your audience growth, the visibility that you have starts to halt a little bit. You are tired of marketing strategies that only work when life is calm and your calendar is empty. And if that is you, then you are in the right place. So you also might find that you want an email list that grows through assets, not based on daily output. And I'll go a little bit further into what I mean by assets. But for the sake of right now, assets are something that will continue to perform, that will continue to work longer than your average piece of just content. It's not something that's here and gone. It's something that's able to sustain yourself over time, right? An actual asset. Essentially, if I had to sum all of this up, you're not here for some random content hack. You're here because you're ready to have a system. So, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be answering 3 questions. And the 3 questions that we're going to be answering today are: why does audience growth stall when you get busy building? How do you protect momentum without posting every day? And what does a connected visibility engine actually look like? So, now, that being said, I feel like I couldn't do this presentation if I didn't say who this isn't for, because I know sometimes when I talk about systems and structures, it can seem like this is just the easy button. And I just want to be very transparent with you. If you are looking for something that's an overnight visibility hack, this is not for you. If you don't have an offer yet, if you don't have any audience whatsoever, you don't have a direction in your business, and this is not yet for you, come back after you have those things. If you want to chase every platform instead of building a long term asset, if you love doing reels, multiple reels a day, you love staying in your stories, and that's how you see your business going forward, this probably isn't for you because I don't do any of those things. And so I only teach what I do. And also, if you are in this place where you were just looking for ideas, but you're not actually ready to implement, then this is not for you. But if you're ready to build a system that will protect your momentum, then you are exactly where you need to be. Okay, let's dive in. So I am not making this about me, but I do think it's important that you know who's talking to you and who's giving the information. So my name is Janae. I help online business owners get seen without being glued to their phones and social media. I used to be an engineer and I was trained to think in systems to solve problems efficiently, how to design something that had a very repeatable process. And when I came into the online business space, I was doing all the things. I was posting daily, I was showing up in my stories, and I was constantly feeding this beast that was visibility just to get seen, but it was a very manual effort. And I realized that if I ever paused, if I ever took my foot off the gas, that my audience growth would pause too. And it didn't really matter until I became a mother and my time became so limited. And I knew, hey, I'm ambitious. I have big goals. I don't want my business to just completely halt and stop. So that means that I have to have a way, I need to have a strategy where I'm able to keep working and I have a system that works for me, even when I'm not actively working, right? So I'm not the person who's ever been afraid of work. I just didn't always have the proper structure, proper architecture in place in order to allow this system that I've created to really work for me. So I'm really excited to share this with you because I remember before I found this, I was at a place where I knew a lot of times, oh my gosh, I need to be posting. And it just felt like I don't have anything left to give. I need something that can help me even when I'm not at my 100, where it doesn't impact how I'm showing up. It doesn't impact my growth in the future. Okay. One of my first mentors I had when I started being in the online space of business, they had this saying they always use, which is the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your life. And so I really wanted to share this question that literally changed a lot for me. And it was, how could I possibly have content that would keep working for me for a longer period of time? Because I realized that there is this game that's happening, and there's a couple ways to play the game. I can either keep creating more content and have that work for me, or I need to figure out how can I take the existing content I have or the content that I'm creating and make sure that I get more life, more out of what I'm already creating. And so this is literally the shift that moved me from chasing consistency to really diving into the game of like continuity, right? So how do you keep something going? How do you get that continuous momentum? How do you compound going forward? And so I want you to think about that, even in your own business, even in how you create content and how your content works for you. Which game have you really been playing? And have you ever really considered how can your content keep working for you? Now, this is not theory for me. Um, it's not theory that this can work even when you don't work. It's not just a nice phrase I use. This process has been what I call real life tested. Okay. Back in 2024, I actually experienced a hurricane. I was on my way to a business conference and I was visiting my mom. I had my little one with me, and we knew that there was a storm that was going to be hitting where the conference was located at. And we were far enough inland that it shouldn't have impacted us at all. However, the hurricane actually ended up hitting where I was located as well. And so we went for the better part of a month with no power, no internet. I literally was unable to work. And having an online business, that is, of course, you have your immediate need that you're tending to, but it's also kind of in the back of your mind of like, oh my gosh, this is, like my business, this is how I live, this is how I earn income. And I was able to have my business still be discoverable in those extreme conditions. I did not have perfect consistency. In fact, I had no consistency. I didn't post anything. I think I had traveled one day. It was maybe a couple weeks in to a neighboring town because we were traveling there just to get our phones charged for when they were able to work. But we were at a point in time, honestly, when our phones didn't even work, the literal phone calling function. You would have to call multiple times for it to even connect. It was crazy. And so we would go charge our phones. And so I sent out one post just letting people know, hey, I have been impacted. I'm okay. We're safe. Outside of that, there was no consistency, but I did have continuity already built in because I had been playing with the idea of using the system for a while, and I was just planning on testing it over time. But life has a interesting way of doing things sometimes, and so I now know that what I have here works because when I was offline for that full month, my email was tripled. I wasn't posting, I wasn't selling in my stories. I just had a system that was running for me. This was not luck. This was not random. This was literally evidence that what I had could work. And so this is why I'm always so adamant about you don't need consistency, not really, but you do need something that can be consistent on your behalf, if that makes sense. So consistency can come from you and your constant input, or it can come from a system. And I think that's where a lot of times when we talk about consistency, people automatically assume, okay, that's on me. It doesn't have to be, but it will be if you don't have that system. So just flipping this slide. Core truth that I realize is that if you are in a place where your marketing slows down when you need to focus somewhere else, whether that's your life, whether that's on your business, whether that's something you're building, that is a sign of a structure problem, a systems problem. It's not a content issue because in my example that I was sharing with you, my story of the hurricane, I wasn't creating new content, but it was still able to grow my business. And so if you have the system, you don't have to constantly create the content, but you do have to choose which way you prefer to lead your business. And I know a lot of business owners will unknowingly build marketing, build strategies that the moment that they stop, the moment that life needs more attention from them, everything has to switch off. And then they're going to have to rebuild later. And that is literally the what we're fixing today. That's literally what I want to talk about. That's the entire premise of this presentation is that if this is something that you have experienced before, I just want to show you another way of doing it. Okay. There are three core ideas that will literally change the way that you think about this and that I'm going to present to you today. And so, first is identifying the visibility gap, naming that cycle so you can stop repeating it. Oops, why that did that. And then protecting your momentum work. So not sacrificing your deliverability, how you're found when you are in the phase of building and how to connect the engine. So how to take all of the scattered tactics, the things that you've been doing independently and making sure that they're actually turned into a streamlined system. So if you want, you can write those down, the visibility gap, the momentum work, and the engine. Diving into the visibility gap. This is a gap that is in between the work that you're doing to build your business and the work that keeps new people finding your business, finding you. When you're in this phase of deep creation, ideation, visualizing, setting the vision, a lot of times what I've noticed is that this hidden gap happens and it expands, which is where your visibility turns off. And for most people, it happens without them even really actively realizing it. What the first time that they will really notice it is that they will go to launch, they will go to share this with their audience, and it feels like who the hell am I launching to? Like, where did everyone go? And really, what happened is you low key ghosted them in the process of you building. And it happens very quickly. Another thing that I see happen as a result of this is what I call the regression cycle, which is when you are actively working on being seen in your business, right? Okay, so there's a regression cycle that happens. And what it looks like is there's this momentum that you're building in your business, right? And I'm going to characterize that momentum by audience growth, by email list growth. So you can base this on stats. I think actually basing on stats would be the better way to do it. And when you start building something important, because you're pulling back, because that visibility gap is starting to take effect, what happens is your audience engagement, your audience interaction starts to take a hit, right? It's regressing. You're building, it's just that your audience growth is flatlining. Then you go to launch, and maybe part of your launch is, oh my gosh, I need to re-engage. So you start going up again. But the audience is not the same warmed up audience it was before, especially if they found you because they were actively looking for a solution. Now they're at a point where this time that you've been taking to build, it has passed. It might not be as urgent of a need as it was before, and you're re-engaging, but you got to build that momentum back, right? And so the problem isn't that there is a dip when you're building, because every business has those ebbs and flows, that they will experience those dips. But the problem is when you are essentially rebuilding from zero every single time. That is a very exhausting cycle to be in. A lot of times when I have talked to past clients, private clients around their audience growth, and they are experiencing this is kind of the beginning point of the burnout feeling, because they'll get themselves really amped up. Hey, I'm going to show up. I'm going to be there. They'll start doing all of the things that they know they need to do to build their audience back up. They build it, but inevitably the building is not a very sustainable process, right? It would be the equivalent of you're constantly pushing the car uphill. At some point, you're hoping to like crest that hill and start going down. But because there's this pause that's happening in between, you feel like you're constantly pushing. You're either pushing, not pushing, it's falling, it's rolling back down. Then you have to keep pushing again. And like pushing from a stalled position is really hard unless you plan on going downhill, right? And that cycle, how exhausting that is almost unavoidable when you are in that place of having that visibility gap because you're building. Okay, this is something that I feel like is just a design flaw. Let me get my slides back up. This is what happens when there's just not the right system in place, because the system that you currently have, that you are currently using, requires more than you are able to provide when there's other demands that you're dealing with. So this is in a conversation around, you need to wake up earlier, you need to be more organized, you need to be more consistent. If your visibility is disappearing every single time your life is getting full, then the system that you currently have is just asking too much, is requiring too much of your manual input, which means that the system needs to change, right? So I want to talk about this other concept that shifted the way I really started to approach this. And it's separating growth work from momentum. So first I want to describe what they are, because I think if you understand this concept of what's growth and what's momentum work, or actions, behaviors in your business, you'll start to see more clearly why what's happening is happening. So growth work is literally what builds value in your business, right? So this is your offers, how you deliver to your client when you're going through a massive website. So I would almost actually, another way of thinking of this is these are the projects. These are the one-time builds efforts that you're going through that are meant to last a long time. This is when you create a new system, when you are creating new automations. Momentum work is how do you keep people discovering you? Or you can almost think of it as maintenance, but it's not maintenance because it's really designed to get you to the next point, wherever that is. And it can be tracking your traffic, where are people coming from? It can be, how are you email nurturing them? How are you getting them closer to making a decision on whether they want to accept your offer or not? How are you retargeting your audience? How are you making sure you're staying top of mind? Are you reviewing your data so that you know what to optimize based on what you're already doing? So a lot of people, when I go talk about this visibility gap and what happens when you're building, is that they will sacrifice the momentum work that is keeping them discovered whenever growth work gets too intense. And then it starts to turn into, I don't know why my audience isn't growing, right? So the thing to do is to actually protect your momentum while you build. And the way that you do this is by having the minimum viable options, the minimum viable momentum that you need. So the goal is not to do more every single week. It's to keep the right pieces moving. So that's going to be a searchable asset, one path to get on your email list, a clear path to be nurtured, and a way to check your data and optimize. That's it. Everything else is extra. When life gets full, these four things need to keep running in order for your business to keep moving forward. I have tested this so many different ways where there have been times when I stop doing all the things, my momentum falls. When I'm able to just map out what my minimum momentum is, that is when I'm able to see that even if I'm in a season of building, I'm able to ultimately make progress. And another way that I think of this is that the same way that you have a prep for your launch, right? You have a runway that happens before you launch. Okay, I'm going to create content. I'm going to do all these. Before I start actively building a project, I make sure these things are in place. If they're not in place, this is where I'm starting before I get into a really heavy season of building. Okay. Now, speaking of minimum viable momentum, what the heck is it? Because it sounds like a mouthful. And I normally just refer to this as MVM. But what it is it's the smallest repeatable rhythm that will keep your audience growing while you are building something else. And this is just an example of what it can look like, because this is something that you can do in under 2 hours a week, right? So checking your data, creating an asset. So for me, my asset that I'm creating, generally, depending on where I'm at in my offer promotion, is a podcast. And then that gets repurposed into an email and all those things. So creating the asset and then scheduling and posting, and also making sure you have time to optimize. Creating the asset could also be your social media, but it's not going to be your random social media that doesn't last for a while. We're going to talk about that in a second. So I don't want to jump ahead too much. But this is under 2 hours a week. And this is literally the baseline. This is not the ceiling. This isn't the max. This is something that when you're in a season of building, you can come back to and make sure, hey, if you ask yourself, am I keeping the ball rolling? Yes, I am, because I'm doing these things. This is how you protect your momentum in your business. This is how you protect your audience growth. This is not about shooting for perfection in your business. This is not about doing the most you can do. This is not about optimizing for those ideal weeks when you have time, when you have a wide open calendar. This is about how you do it, even when things get hectic, how you are able to carve out time at a minimum, right, for this type of momentum work. Now, another way of thinking about this is there is a shift that has to happen, right? Innately, when we talk about the minimum viable momentum. Because if you are in this place of you are doing content, like one off content, it might stay visible for hours or days, but then it's gone. So then you got to feed the beast again, right? So you got to go create more reels, go create a new post, go show up in your stories again. Or you shift into really utilizing compounding assets, being searchable, being discoverable. And when I say discoverable, I literally have content that I created over 2 years ago that is still getting clicks to my landing pages, that is still getting people opting into my email list years later, right? So this is a massive leverage point, because long after you publish it, it's still working for you. But it's a shift that has to happen with you of how you think about what you're creating, because not everything you create is created equal. So a post is an event. It happens once. But when you start really thinking about searchable assets, those keep working long after it's created. So An example of this would be, like I said, an Instagram story versus an optimized Pinterest. Pinterest has worked really, really well for me in terms of compounding assets because they work for years. And it's amazing because I remember being in that cycle of constantly creating new content and feeling like I can never catch up, that if life got in the way, that then everything else would crumble in the business. And so if you can get your mind behind how am I going to create something that compounds versus something that's just a one-off event, it'll make the momentum easier to maintain, even in seasons when you are building. So the next logical thought to have is okay, but when you talk about content, obviously the lifespan has to matter, right? So when you think about stories, feed posts, your traditional social media, a lot of times you're getting max like a couple days, maybe a week. Some things will take off and they might last a little longer, but I personally have never seen anything on social media last for years. And if you are looking at search first assets, so here I'm talking about SEO, I'm talking about Pinterest, I'm talking about how you show up in even AI searches. This is something that lasts weeks to years. The longer your content lives, the easier your effort can compound, right? So this is where you really start to build leverage into your business, and when you start building leverage into the way that you are creating content, because we're in a content game already. You have to create content in the space that we're in, but it's not about how much can you create, but how much can you get out of what you create. And so for me, I'm like, if I can get something to work harder for me, I am all for that. And if it can last for years to come, if I can create really solid content and make sure that even if someone finds me 6 months from now, they can benefit from it, that is of a massive value to me. So instead of just randomly tracking these independent efforts, what's important is to actually build an engine. And the engine is your point of connection. This isn't specifically about TikTok or Pinterest or emails or ads as having separate jobs. This is about having something that literally creates this operating wheel that's feeding each other. So people search, right? People look for solutions to their problems. You have a lead magnet there where you're showing up in the search where they are most intentful for finding a solution. Your lead magnet, you are getting them opting in. You can have a low ticket offer. There's lots of ways this can look. It's not about the specifics, it's about the system that is running behind it. You then have an email nurture process. Why? Because a lot of your audience doesn't even see what you post online. If I'm being really generous, maybe 10% of the people who follow you even see what you post compared to your average open rate on your email. I know for me, if it's a really cold audience, it might be at the lowest 30%, but for most things, it's 50%. And they're clicking, they're engaging, they're talking back. So, how do you actually nurture people to get closer to your offer, to making the step to work with you? And then obviously your offer has to be a core part of that. Your offer, honestly, is what is the basis for even what you have people finding you on in search. That's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down. And then retargeting. How do you make sure the people who did see you, who were interested, that may have gotten distracted, that may have stepped away, that life happened, kids ran in, that they're seeing you and they can make that decision? Hey, is this for me or is it not for me? These are core elements of the engine, right? This is something that you will keep working through in order to make sure they're working. So your job is not to manage 6 independent platforms, but really to just have a connected system where everything that you're doing is feeding into each other. The time that I spend keeping all of these parts working is so much less than what I used to spend just on Instagram alone. And that is no exaggeration. It was hours every week before. And this does not take hours, but that's because there's a system behind it. So, okay, the other part of this that I didn't include on the side was tracking your numbers. But when I say track your numbers, it's really important that you only really focus on numbers that actually matter. You don't need to keep track of 20 metrics, okay? You really need to come back to these 4 questions, maybe a few more, depending on how you have your business structured. One is traffic. Traffic is really a leading indicator. Are new people finding you? A leading indicator is an early sign that something is going in the right direction or the wrong direction. Where are they finding you from? This is a really good way to confirm if the effort you're putting in is actually worth your time. Because if you are busy posting on Instagram, but then you actually look at it and it's like, well, no one who actually opts into my email list comes from Instagram and no one who purchases comes there, then why are you still spending more time there, just for the sake of posting? Or is it because you thought that that was actually a growth metric? Then you're going to look in your opt-in rate or subscribers. So if you're looking at the opt-in rate, it's the pages that you're sending people to converting. Have you split tested them? Do you know that they're opting in? If they're not opting in, is it my messaging that's off? Is it something that needs to tweak? So a lot of these numbers are really about a couple of things. One, letting you know if you're on the right path or not. And two, having a way of tweaking where you're not just guessing what needs to be done. I see it so often that people are like, well, I think I just need to work on my sales. And it's like, okay, but does the numbers support that? Or is it something else? Because there's no point in you reworking a landing page when your data does not support that. Maybe it's the fact the post that you sent them to that got them there. There's a disconnect there, right? So sometimes the fix is not as big as we think, but we only know that when we know our data. Another thing is your list growing? What's level engagement of the people who are joining your list? How many of those people are actually moving towards your offer? Whether that's you have a freebie that goes to a low ticket that goes to your main offer, or maybe you start with a low ticket that goes to your offer, however that looks. And then your email clicks, the people who are joining your audience, are they moving towards your offers? And really, how are they engaging back with you? When you know these numbers at a basis, you will know exactly what to adjust and you'll know what to leave alone. And that is so powerful because in this business, your time is worth so much that it's important that you know what is worth your time and what's not. And it'll help a lot in addressing overwhelm and in addressing burnout in this business. So, a quick recap of what we've talked about. We've talked about the visibility gap. We've talked about what you need to do to protect your momentum and to create assets that compound, and how important it is for you to have an engine and to really track what matters. That is actually the framework that I've been using that has allowed me to grow my audience over this period of time. And now I want to show you how we can build it together. So you have a choice that you can make. And the choice is honestly, you can absolutely go the path of figuring out how to make this work on your own by working to stay consistent, and even in busy seasons, going through the process of rebuilding and adjusting where your attention is based on the most urgent thing that's coming up right now. Or you can choose a supported way, which is to build the engine step by step with a roadmap, live support, feedback, templates, and a clear implementation rhythm from someone who's already done it. And that is why I created Audience Growth Engine. Audience Growth Engine is an 8-week live implementation program where we will be building this together. This is not a program to be consumed. This is a build with me experience, a very supported build with me experience. It's really for the busy owners that know that they need to prioritize audience growth and they have a very full life. So they're building for the times when time is limited. This is going to be the founding member round, which means that you get access to founding member price, but you also get a lot more access to me because I am so committed to the people who are joining this and making sure that they walk away with a system, with a process that is built that will really support them going forward. So in this 8-week build, there's really 5 main things that we're really focusing on. Your growth roadmap, knowing exactly what you're building towards and how you're going to get there, your customer journey, really curating that journey, how you go from that discovery to opt-in to nurture to offer, all of that connected. Also building out your search first content system, making sure that you have assets that are working for you long after you publish, having a CEO dashboard that works for you so you can see your data very clearly, know what to watch, know what to tweak, and know how to respond to what you're seeing and what to ignore. And this is something that is going to change the way that you operate your business. So I would think of this as there's actually three main phases. You're going to design it, you're going to turn on, like start your engine, and then you're going to run it. So weeks 1 through 3, we're really focusing on the designing, the roadmap, the customer journey, and priming a really high quality lead magnet. These aren't just dusty PDFs that are collecting digital dust. Okay. Then you're going to have weeks 4 through 6 where you're turning it on, you're starting the engine, you're building out your search foundation, you have evergreen content that you're starting to create, and you have a way of amplifying it to make sure that you're getting seen even when you're not actively posting. Week 7 through 8 is really running the engine. So this is where we're optimizing. You have a dashboard, you have a weekly maintenance routine that I will share with you that will save you so much over the course of your business. This is not about learning just random tactics and pieces. This is about building a connected system week over week. So AGE at its core is designed for implementation. In there, you will have live weekly coaching, direct access to me, to make sure that you're not getting stuck. There's no guessing, am I doing this right? You have a dashboard where you can have everything in one place. You will get templates, from Pinterest templates to other templates of how I built this in the back end of my system, so that you're not ever feeling like you're starting from scratch, as well as a private community where you have a group of business owners building alongside you. You can ask questions anytime, and I am actively in there with you. These are not extras, these are not random things to throw in. This is literally just designed to help make sure that you are able to continue moving forward with your implementation. Now, I know that life happens. And so what I'm doing is I have a life happens guarantee. And there's actually two parts of this. The first part is there's a 14-day right fit guarantee, which is you will have time to really go through the first two modules of this program. And if after going through, you determine this is just not the right fit for you, you can email me and I will refund you. There's no hard feelings. The other part of this is that I know a lot of my audience, they are busy. Life gets in the way sometimes. And so I have a finish what you started guarantee, which is that if you actively participate in this program, you're showing up to calls, you're doing the work, and you just, life happens, you don't get a chance to finish, then you will have access to the next live round of this program at no additional cost. Because my goal is to build a system that will keep working long after we're done. And to me, that happens under two conditions. Yes, you're the right fit. You know that this is for you. This is what you want to have in your business, and that you have support along the journey of you implementing, because this is not one of those things where you're just taking in all the information. This is really like we are actively building week to week. And I am there to help guide you, to give you feedback and any support that I can to make sure that you're able to do that successfully in your business. Your investment for this is, because you're part of this webinar, there's a fast action investment of $397. That gives you $100 off what the public price will be, which is $497. The spots are limited because this is the live round, because I am intentionally going to be very involved in your business and how you get this set up in your business. Now, for this fast action bonus, all you need to do is I will go ahead and drop the checkout link right now in the chat. So let me go ahead and do that. And you can go ahead and join right now. And if you are watching this on the replay, then I have a QR code that I will show you in a second for that. And all you need to do is enroll, and we are going to get started building the engine. We have our kickoff call next week. And if you know that this is a system you need, the next step is for you to go ahead and go get checked out and reserve your spot in the audience growth engine. Now, if you're thinking about this, I want you to imagine it's 8 weeks from now and your growth plan is clear. You have a lead magnet and a nurture path that are connected. Your content is searchable, it's scheduled. You have a way to retarget the people that are finding you, and a dashboard that's in place for you to know exactly what you need to do next in your business. You know how to maintain the system without having to start over anytime life gets busy. That is literally what we're going to be building together over the next 8 weeks. And it starts with one decision today. So thank you so much for coming, for spending your time, for learning about how you can grow your audience without having to constantly be putting in more energy. And I will open the floor for questions for anyone who is on the call live. And if you know that this is what you need to do, you know this is your right next step, then go ahead and go to the link at that QR code and you can get your butt in there. So with that, I will open up for questions. And then for those of you who stay to the end, I will be emailing you the visibility continuity blueprint right after this. Okay. Okay. So I already feel overwhelmed. Is this going to add more to my plate? So the whole point of this is really to reduce what you're managing. It's not to add more to it. And week by week, what we're going to be doing is replacing a lot of the scattered manual effort that you've already been taking and helping you to actually build it with one connected system. That being said, I'm going to be really honest and transparent and say that with anything that you're building a system, there will be an initial build. So there will be energy that goes into creating it, and over time it will compound. So I wouldn't say it's adding more to your plate overall. I would estimate that it might be, an hour or so every week, but after you get through the building phase, it's something that you're able to use for years to come. So for context, I built this for myself initially in 2024, and after I built it, I have used this even now after having two kids. There has been months when I have not actively been building. I have not spent more than 2 hours on even my marketing efforts, and I've still been able to see continuous audience growth. So hopefully that gives you an answer. If you're not feeling, yeah, if you're not feeling techy, you can definitely still do this. So I'm happy to be your tech support in the program because I love all things funnels, automation, CRM. So that's definitely on the table, even though it's not technically part of the curriculum. But any of those issues that come up, I will happily walk you through. But we also have templates, we'll have walkthroughs, we'll have live coaching every week. So if there's anything that you're working on that you're not able to figure out alone, if you feel stuck, that's what we're going to have office hours in our community chat for. Yeah, like even if you don't have an email list or your email list is small, you honestly are the best person for this because you're able to build the system before you need it. I think if you're building from the start, then it's almost easier in a way than having to retrofit what you're doing and like course correct after. And let's face it, a small list that is able to grow through a connected system is so much better than a large scale list. Like I would pick that every single time. Okay. Yeah. So this first cohort is live. You'll be getting it at the lowest price this program will ever be. And as we refine the curriculum, so the people who are joining right now, a lot of the reason why there's going to be this founding member price is because we're really working through the curriculum together. I know where we're going. I know what it looks like. I know the steps to get there, but also your feedback will help shape and refine how it is delivered. And as we have the testimonials, as we have more of the people going through it that are getting the wins, the price is going to go up. So if you really value having more handholding, more access, more support, even if you don't always use it, it's just to have it there. This is literally the best time to join. If you know this is something you need, then I would go ahead and make that plunge. Now, if you're not that person at all, then yeah, then that's up to you. I do want to address something else too. So I'm only going to say this because I know a lot of my audience just based on even email conversations I've had with some of you, which is that you may already feel like you don't have a lot of time. And if you have been feeling like my time is already limited, I actually would use that as a reason to build this because generally speaking, at least this has been my experience. When I have seasons of no time, they don't just magically poof go away. And so if you can get a system up working design that can run for you going forward, whether you have time or not in the future, that's going to help you so much because in the future, I can guarantee you that you will have points in your life where you feel like life is busy and you don't have time. Right. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you everyone so much for being here. And I just want to remind you fast action price will expire at the end of the day, Monday. If you have any questions, then you can feel free to DM me or email me. I will probably end up sending this replay out. That way you can go through it. And if you have questions, yeah, just respond back to me. And if you're seeing this anywhere else, then you can just go ahead and comment wherever you're seeing it. So all that to say, I hope that going forward that you end up building the business that can actually support you. I know a lot of us have started our business with freedom in mind, with having more time, more flexibility, more financial freedom. And in my experience, the only way that we're actually able to build that, to have that, is to actually have systems and structures in place. So even if you haven't built them yet, the moment you build them, you will really start to realize how much of a difference having them in your business will make. Okay, yes, I will share. Let me just do the QR code one last time so that you can see it. And thank you so much, like I said, for being here. I'm so grateful that you spent some time with me, that you're even looking at how you're able to grow your audience going forward. And I look forward to seeing you in the program. Bye.